Here we go. So our first ever MythBusters video. So I don't know if you've ever watched MythBusters. It's one of my favorite programs, but it's basically where they take a cliche and, you know, decide whether it's actually plausible or not. And we're going to do the same thing with some of the cliches and some of the questions, some of the conspiracies around NBA 2K22. And I've already recorded tomorrow's video. I actually recorded it before this one, but I wanted to drop this one first. So tomorrow's video is on like tactical downgrades, which is, can, like, you know, more average players just use underpowered cards because it's not really going to make any difference? So that's a really interesting video because I don't think my answer to that is one you're going to expect. But today, we're going to start with SBMM, Skill Based Matchmaking, and whether it actually exists in the game. Now, this is a controversial subject. Now, the starting point of whether deciding this is real or not is looking at 2K and whether they've acknowledged it. And the answer to that question is absolutely not. No one from 2K has ever mentioned it. Now, people from 2K follow me on Twitter, and I'll put out posts and they'll like them, they'll, you know, whatever, there'll be engagement. When it comes to SBMM, any post put out there, 2K won't even acknowledge it. So the question there is does it not exist? Is that why they've never mentioned it? Or do the fact that they don't engage on any discussion around SBMM indicate that it does exist and they don't want to admit it? So the starting point has to be with 2K, but the categorical answer to that question is no, they've never ever said it's in the game. But it is in every other competitive game, right? It's in FIFA, it's in Call of Duty, it's in every competitive game. Skill-based matchmaking is a thing. Now, why is it in games, right? The answer is to keep casual players invested, right? New players in the game coming in don't want to match up against, you know, Ty Debo or Splash in their first game, because what they'll do is they'll turn the game off and never play it again, because it's not going to be a fun experience for them. So the idea is let's get them matched up regularly against players at a similar level, and they'll have more fun, they'll be more engaged, they'll be less inclined to just walk away from the game. The negative impact happens is if you're in high-level SBMM, but you're at the bottom of it. That's a tougher spot to be, and I find myself in that spot pretty much all the time, right? If you look at draft, right? Now, draft mode is a mode that, to me, categorically doesn't have skill-based matchmaking. It's almost impossible not to go 10-0, or 10-1, or 10-2. You'll get it completed every single time. And the reason is there's no skill-based matchmaking involved at all. That's the one mode where I can categorically say 100% there's no skill-based matchmaking. And if you compare that to modes like Unlimited, where you're constantly matching up against elite players, you know, is that what Unlimited should be? Is Unlimited without skill-based matchmaking draft mode, but actually anyone who's like in the top 5% would run it with their eyes closed? Do we need SBMM in Unlimited to make it a challenge for experienced players? So let's talk about Unlimited specifically now, right? So Unlimited is the mode where generally people will say skill-based matchmaking exists. I think there's other modes where it's like up in the air, is it, or doesn't it? And then, you know, there's modes where we know it doesn't exist. But Unlimited is that mode where everyone kind of agrees that skill-based matchmaking exists. From the best players in the world to brand new players, everyone seems to be on a level playing field. They all agree that skill-based matchmaking exists. Now, there is a couple of arguments to this, right? I'm going to get to my opinion at the end. There's a couple of arguments to this. The first one is, some of the people that talk about high-level SBMM costing them games don't have high win ratios. It has to be said, there are people out there that continuously claim that they are losing games because of skill-based matchmaking when their win ratio is low. Now, why would they get high-level skill-based matchmaking if you don't have a winning record? If you don't have a high winning record? If you're talking about the highest levels of SBMM, you're talking about 75, 80%. And for me in Unlimited, it's that exact moment where I feel like the games get tougher. So 75 to 80%. So if you've got a 60% win record in Unlimited and you're claiming SBMM, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you be in the highest bracket? Just because you've played the game for 10 years doesn't automatically put you in SBMM unless the algorithm is designed to do that. But I'm assuming the only reason win ratios were added to 2K is so they could add in SBMM last year. So if it was going to go on anything, it would be win ratios. And from my experience, like I said, when you get to that 70, 75, 80% win ratio, it feels like the matchups just get way, way tougher. So that's my argument for it. But it doesn't explain why people with low low win ratios, low win percentages, are claiming high-level SBMM. That does not make any sense. It doesn't matter how you look at it. The other argument to SBMM in Unlimited, and I actually think the more valid argument to it, is only Super Sweats play it. Now, like I said, this is where I think you need to start bringing in other game modes, right? When you look at game modes like the draft or clutch time. My win ratio on those two modes is way, way higher than my win ratio on Unlimited. And even if the win ratios are close, like Unlimited is way, way more difficult. It just is. So, is it because only elite players or good players or players who think they're good play Unlimited? Now, that is a genuine argument to SBMM in Unlimited, because you should regularly match up with weak opponents, right? That is how it should work, and that's how it worked in the past. But the community has leveled up. I'm a significantly better player than I was this time last year. It's not close. It's really not close. I was like bad at the game last year making content. This year, I'm decent at the game. So if I've leveled up that much, and considering I haven't made content for a year and I've been part-timing the game, the fact that I've improved so much means that someone who's actually played the game for the last 12 months should have improved leaps and bounds on where they were last year. So that's the argument. But then I have an argument for that as well, which doesn't that happen all the time? Surely, as we progress, players get better. Doesn't matter if it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. Over the last 6 months, a proportion of players would have got better at the game. So I actually think the argument that skill level has gone up isn't valid. I don't think it's valid. Because it should have been, you know, obvious throughout the history of 2K. Certainly over the last 3 years, it should have been evident because people are beginning to progress. Like, if you look at 2K20 during lockdown, that was probably the steepest climb we saw in ability. That was offset by the fact that there was a lot more casuals playing the game. But people were literally sitting at home grinding this game 20 hours a day, watching content, tutorials, everything else. My highest performing video has like 25,000 views, and it's literally a tutorial from around that time. Like, that is what people were doing at the time. They were learning to play the game. So I feel like the skill level should have stepped up more in that period than it does now. People are getting better at the game. But people have always got better at the game. And people leave the game as well, you know? Some of the people that have got to that high level leave and they get replaced by newer players. That should have been relatively level over the last few years. I really do believe that. I know not as many people are playing the game, or certainly not playing the game as intensely as they were. So it might leave a bit of a vacuum in terms of like casual players, but it's just not a valid argument to me. So those two arguments, one does stand up, right? I think the idea that people with low-level win ratios are claiming high-level SBMM doesn't make any sense. That is an argument to SBMM. The argument that everyone's just got better, I think it has some validity, but not a huge amount. Like I said, the people that are playing draft, the people that are playing clutch time, the people that play limited, a lot of them will be playing unlimited. You just never match up against them. There is actually a third argument for SBMM, and this one is absolutely true, okay? This is an absolutely true argument to SBMM. So in previous years, we would have, you know, the super sweats would get on unlimited, complete unlimited, and then get off. Okay, that's how it would work. Back in the day, it was 12 wins, right? You win 12 games, and you're off the game mode. So that person, unless they were jumping on just for fun, would likely be off the game mode. They'd be off unlimited. Then, we went to this like 53-0 or 68-0. I can't remember what it was at the start. Which suddenly meant that high-level players were playing a lot more unlimited. In fact, they were playing 5 times more. So you were 5 times more likely to run into one of these guys. Because a casual, even if they jump on, is not going to be playing 68 games to try and get the unlimited reward. I need to stop calling it 12-0 reward. It's not that anymore. The unlimited reward. So suddenly the game time went up, right? So high-level players were playing the game way, way more. You were just way more likely to run into them. That is a fact. Now we've got Showdown. So now you've got the highest level players playing like 130 games. Which means you're 13 times more likely now to run into a high-level player than you were a year and a half ago. That is the ultimate argument to to SBMM, because the guys who want to do that will play this game non-stop for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you are very, very likely to run into them. Now, I was the first person to do a video on SBMM, right? I was the first person to even point it out, and it was around the time D-Rob was a level 40 reward last year. I'm at a point now, guys, where I don't think it exists. I'm not convinced. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, but I'm not convinced. Because when you look at those numbers, when you look at the fact that the best of the best are playing 130 games throughout a 6-week season, and that's just one player playing 130 games. You add up all of them, and you've got a 13 times increase on high-level players playing this game mode. The odds of you running into them are astronomical. It's very, very likely. So that's the real big argument to Unlimited, and that's what makes these videos so interesting, because there is a balance there, there is a conversation there. When you start adding up those things, like I said, low win ratio players claiming high SBMM. And, you know, the fact that people have potentially got better at the game. And the fact that high-level players are playing this game 13 times more than they were. I mean, it is an absolute categorical argument to SBMM. It just is. Now, I'm going to talk about clutch time really quickly. So clutch time, I did a video recently. Has SBMM been added to clutch time? Now, the answer to that question, guys, is no. Let me tell you why. The first few days, I released that video after 4 days of the season. Fernando Martin did what Unlimited did. It did what Unlimited did. It did what SBMM does in Unlimited, or the concept of it. Everyone was playing that mode. The high-level players were literally logging into clutch time, playing a game, winning a game, logging into another game, playing a game, winning, and logging into another game. It was just all high-level players. It's the best card in the game at the time, Fernando Martin. So they were all there. What usually happens in Unlimited was happening in clutch time. These guys were running 100 games over a weekend. Let's say the average high-level player played 5 games of clutch time over a weekend. That weekend, they played 20 times the games. So you were 20 times more likely to run into a high-level player. Now, I've won 20 games in a row in clutch time. I haven't played a good squad for 2 days. It's a joke. SBMM doesn't exist in clutch time. It doesn't. I've not had a tough game. My win ratio is like 450 to 150 games. I should be in the highest level skill-based matchmaking possible in that game. It just doesn't exist. It does not exist. I dropped a video yesterday, me running a tiny squad going 3-0. I had John Stockton as my point guard. And we didn't get a tough matchup, that's why I didn't lose. So SBMM doesn't exist in clutch time. Doesn't exist in the draft, doesn't exist in limited. There is some conversation around it existing in TTO, but it doesn't. So, now we reach the conclusion. There are 2 schools of thought. I've given 3 very good reasons why SBMM doesn't exist. Okay? The 4th reason is 2K have never mentioned it. The arguments for it. Unlimited is way, way tougher than it's ever been. Matchups you get are way, way tougher than it's ever been. That's kind of it, guys. That's kind of it. And there's an explanation for that. 2K have never mentioned it. Elite players play the game mode way more. I'm not gonna go either way on this, okay? I'm not gonna say it's debunked, or I'm not gonna say it's true. I'm gonna say it's plausible, because it is possible that SBMM is an unlimited. But for my personal opinion, the only evidence of that I've ever seen is I feel like my matchups have always got tougher at 75 to 80%. And because I felt that, that's the only reason I'm not saying that SBMM doesn't exist. So there we are, guys. I'm saying it's possible, but it's not definite, and it's not definitely not. It's possible. That's the video, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please leave a comment below. Until next time, thanks for watching, guys.